You're watching Forsaken Joe. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy the story. Let's begin. I got home around 6 in the morning, exhausted but wired in that weird way you get after a long shift. The guys at the station had convinced me to head out early for once. I wanted to surprise Dana with breakfast, her favorite. Eggs over medium, turkey sausage, rye toast with raspberry jam. It wasn't our anniversary or anything, just a small gesture to say, "Hey, I love you." The smell of toasted bread filled the kitchen, and I was cracking eggs into the pan when I heard the soft creak of the front door. I smiled, thinking she might have gone to grab the paper in her pajamas, but then I heard it slam shut. That's when I noticed it, Dana standing in the entryway, her suitcase upright by her side, coat on, purse over her shoulder. She looked like someone waiting for a lift. "Hey," I said, still wearing the dumb smile I'd walked in with. "Where are you headed?" She gave me this look, half smug, half detached. Her lip curled like she was trying not to laugh. "I didn't think you'd be home so early." "Yeah, shift ended early. Thought I'd make us breakfast." She didn't budge. "I'm taking a break." The spatula slipped from my hand and clattered onto the stove. "A break from what?" She grabbed the handle of her suitcase. "From us, from this whole thing." My brain stalled. I blinked at her. "What are you talking about?" "I'm moving in with Lance for a while," she said plainly, like she was announcing a new subscription. "He's my EC." I stared. "Your what?" "My emotional companion. EC. It's a term we use in my self-growth group." "I thought EC stood for emergency contact," I muttered. She gave a short laugh. "Wow, that's kinda telling." "Dana, are you serious right now? Who the hell is Lance?" "We've been doing sessions together. Breathwork, intention mapping, mirror affirmation work. He sees me." I stepped closer. "You're leaving me for a guy who teaches breathing?" She rolled her eyes. "You're doing the thing again." "What thing?" "Making it about logic. Always staying so even. It's like, you're too stable, Gavin, too predictable. I need to feel things." My mouth opened, but nothing came out. She reached for the door, then paused. "I'll be back. Don't make this a whole thing." I just stood there, hand still holding a fork, the smell of burning eggs filling the room. The door clicked shut behind her. I didn't chase her. I didn't shout. I just stood there, watching the smoke curl up from the pan, and felt everything I thought I knew disintegrate in the space between the toast and the threshold. She showed up around 6, right when the sky turned that murky gray before dusk. I heard her heels click across the porch. Those chunky ones she always said made her feel grounded. She didn't knock, just walked in like she still lived here. Her hair was freshly curled, lip gloss shimmering, not a smudge in sight. She looked like she was headed to a brunch photo shoot, not collecting the debris of a broken engagement. I was on the couch, silent, arms crossed, heart steady but not soft. "Oh good," she said, tossing her keys on the counter like this was a casual Tuesday. "You're calm." I didn't answer. She glanced at the wedding scrapbook on the shelf, then looked away fast, like it stung. "I figured you'd snoop," she said, not even bothering to make eye contact. "I mean, that's the only reason you'd be this quiet." I stared. She finally met my eyes, arms folded across her chest. "Go ahead," she said. "Say what you want to say. Yell. Cry! Tell me I'm the worst person in the world. Get it out so we can move on." I didn't move. She sighed hard, like I was inconveniencing her. "Look, Gavin, I know this sucks for you, but you need to understand something. I felt invisible. With Lance, I'm alive. He sees me. He talks to me like I matter." "And I didn't?" I asked. My voice was low, but even. She blinked like that caught her off guard. "You were consistent," she said slowly. "You always did the right thing. That was the problem." I tilted my head. "You never challenged me, never made me feel anything unexpected. You were just there, all the time, steady, and I needed more." "More what?" I asked. "More candles? More poems about your root chakra? More long hugs from your emotional companion while I'm out responding to car fires?" "That's not fair," she said, narrowing her eyes. "You didn't try." I stood then, slowly. "Didn't try? Dana, I built our whole life around you, around this house. I showed up, every day. You showed up like a firefighter, efficient, strong, detached." She paused. "But Lance, he makes me feel like a goddess. I laughed. It slipped out bitter, hollow. A goddess, I repeated. Right. She turned away and walked toward the hallway like she owned the air in this house. She stopped by the shelf, ran her finger across a photo of us from 2 years ago. Me in uniform, her in a sundress, both of us sunburned and happy. She didn't pick it up, just wiped the dust and walked on. I followed with my eyes but said nothing. She moved through the house like a guest in a hotel suite, polite, detached, scanning for what was hers and nothing else. I realized something then. She wasn't sad. She wasn't torn. She was done. And I was no longer heartbroken. I was taking inventory. The rage didn't hit all at once. It simmered, like a pilot light under pressure, waiting for oxygen. That night, after she left with a box of old sweaters and a smug goodbye, I just sat there. The couch still smelled like her perfume, some overpriced blend of sage and citrus she claimed helped her regulate her nervous system. I stared at the dark TV screen and imagined Lance. Imagined him guiding her through somatic release, while she wept into a throw pillow. Imagined him stroking her hair, whispering things like, "You are light, you are sacred," and something in me cracked open. I got in the truck. The holistic center was only 20 minutes away, nestled between a vegan juice bar and a boutique that sold crystals and handmade dog biscuits. They didn't even have a proper sign, just a wooden placard out front that said, "Breathe in, begin again." Jesus. I parked right in front. Didn't care if it was a tow zone or a no zone. It was after hours, but the lights were still on inside. A group of people sat cross-legged in a circle, eyes closed, arms limp at their sides. In the center of the room, pacing slowly like some spiritual border collie, was Lance. Khaki linen pants, open collar, barefoot. I opened the door. The bell above it jingled, soft and cheerful. Heads turned. Lance looked up and gave a gentle smile, like he was about to welcome a long-lost soul. "Hi there," he said, walking toward me. "Are you here for the conscious breathwork intro?" "Are you Lance?" I asked. His brows pinched, but he nodded. "I am. And you are?" That's as far as he got. I didn't think. I didn't plan. I didn't shout. I just punched him, hard. The sound was sharp and clean, knuckles on cheekbone. His head snapped to the side, and for a moment, nobody moved, not even him. Then he staggered back and crumpled against the edge of a yoga mat, holding his face, eyes wide. Gasps erupted from the circle. Someone screamed. A woman in flowing robes shouted, "This space is sacred!" "Yeah," I said. "So was my house." 2 staff members rushed over, hands up. "Sir, you need to leave." One of them was barefoot. The other looked like he hadn't eaten in 4 days. I raised my hands and backed toward the door. "He knows why," I said loud enough for everyone to hear. "You all think he's a healer? He's just another guy who can't keep his hands off someone else's fiancée." The barefoot guy muttered something about calling the cops, but no one actually moved. I walked out calm, almost too calm, like something had been drained from me. I didn't even slam the truck door, just drove home with the window down, knuckles sore, heart oddly still. That night, I got a text. "Dana, you embarrassed yourself. This is why I needed space." I stared at the screen for a long time before locking it. The only thing I felt was clean. Days passed. She texted. She called. Sometimes just to say, "Hope you've cooled off." Other times to send voice notes with airy tones and vague half-apologies that danced around the actual damage. I didn't respond, not once. I stopped wondering where she was. I stopped checking her Instagram. The silence between us stopped being suffocating and started feeling like air, but I couldn't stop myself from digging. One night, I sat at the kitchen table with a glass of bourbon and a stack of unopened mail. Most of it was junk, a few wedding catalogs, a coupon for a massage place we'd gone to, once for a connection package. I set them aside and opened my laptop instead. I started going through our joint bank account, not because I suspected anything at first, just because the silence gave me time to notice things. That's when I saw them. $400 to a spa in Topanga, $285 to a restorative retreat up north, $600 in cash withdrawals every few weeks, transfers labeled community energy support. I didn't recognize any of it, but Lance's name showed up more than once in the transaction notes. I stared at the screen, my jaw tight, chest burning. She hadn't just lied, she'd used my money, our money, to fund the affair. to pay for the same candles and workshops and sacred cacao circles where she learned how to convince herself she was justified. I printed out the statements. I sat there for an hour, highlighting every single charge that had Lance's fingerprints on it. By the time I was done, the page looked like a crime scene. The next morning, I went to the bank and shut it all down. I canceled the joint credit card. I froze the checking account. I opened a new one in my name only. The banker raised an eyebrow, but didn't ask. I probably wasn't the first man in that chair with betrayal wrapped around his ribs. Then I called a lawyer. He was an old buddy from the station, now doing family law full-time. I gave him a rough sketch. No rage, just facts. He nodded slowly and said, "You want to protect your assets? We can do that." By the time she came by again, it was a Thursday. Late afternoon. I saw her car in the driveway, but I didn't open the door. She knocked once, then again, then started pounding. "Gavin, seriously? I'm not playing this game. Open the door." I sat on the couch, sipping tea like I didn't hear her. "You're being paranoid," she shouted. "You're acting like I robbed you." I looked over at the pile of receipts still sitting on the coffee table. My eyes landed on one, $540 labeled Lance Community Breath Contribution. "You use my money to cheat," I muttered to myself. She banged once more, then a long silence. Then her voice, low and sharp through the door. "You're making this worse than it had to be." I didn't move. I didn't speak. For the first time, I wasn't reacting. I was reclaiming. I posted the photo around noon on a Saturday. It wasn't dramatic. No caption in all caps, no messy rant. Just a subtle image, a familiar cream canvas tote bag, the one with the stitched mandala she carried to every retreat, sitting limp beside the trash bin on the porch. The caption read, "Sometimes growth just means leaving the garbage out." I didn't tag her. I didn't need to. Her friends knew the bag. Her circle knew the porch. And it didn't take long for the ripple to start. Within the hour, a few comments appeared, mostly cryptic emojis and uh-oh replies. Then came the DMS, one from a woman named Kara. I barely knew her, but she'd been in Dana's friend group for years. She messaged me, "Kara, hey, I feel like I owe you something. Can I call?" I gave her my number. When she rang, her voice was nervous but steady. "I didn't know," she said. "I swear to God, Gavin, I didn't know the full story." "I'm guessing you got her version," I said. "She told us you were cold, dismissive, controlling even. Said you never supported her inner work, that you mocked her group sessions and ignored her needs." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was fiction. Kara hesitated, then added, "She made you out to be the reason she had to heal with Lance. That Lance was the only one who didn't minimize her emotions." "She forgot to mention the bank withdrawals," I said, "and the weekend retreats funded by my paychecks." There was a pause. "I didn't sign up to be part of someone's performance," Kara said quietly. I told her that, and I shared your post. That explained the sudden shift. By that evening, her followers had started picking sides. Some unfollowed me, but more started reaching out, people I hadn't heard from in months. Even her old yoga teacher commented, "Not all healing is holy." A subtle jab, but it landed. Then came the fallout. Lance dumped her. Apparently, the drama had gotten too loud, too public, too dense, as he put it in a long-winded voice memo she accidentally sent to Kara and a few others. He needed space. He needed to rebalance his masculine frequency. Translation, "You're becoming a PR problem, and I didn't sign up for all this noise." The next day, she showed up again. This time, she wasn't dressed for a retreat. No flowing layers or ankle bells. Just sweatpants, no makeup, hair in a frizzy ponytail. She banged on the door like she was trying to wake the dead. "Open the damn door, Gavin. You think you're some kind of saint now? Posting cryptic crap like a teenager?" I stood behind the door, arms crossed. She kept yelling, "You think people are on your side? They don't know the real you. You're a coward. You're emotionally repressed. You couldn't even meet me halfway." Her voice cracked. She sounded more frantic than furious now. "You don't get to turn people against me. That's not healing. That's revenge." I didn't move, didn't say a word. Eventually, her voice gave out. Her fists stopped pounding, and then I heard it, that small sound of retreat, the weight of someone realizing they don't have the upper hand anymore. She walked away. I let the silence hold me like armor, and this time, I didn't feel abandoned. I felt untouchable. The call came on a Monday evening, just as I was finishing up some paperwork at the station. Unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something in me, it might have been curiosity or just the last shred of politeness I hadn't buried yet, made me answer. Gavin, it's Joanna, Dana's mother. I hadn't heard her voice in months. She always had this way of speaking, like she was on the verge of offering cookies or a guilt trip, sometimes both. Hi, Joanna, I said, voice flat. There was a long pause. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from right now, she said softly. But I was hoping you'd meet me for coffee, just a quick conversation. I didn't respond right away. She's devastated, Joanna continued. She didn't expect it to go this way. Not really. That's rich, I said, trying not to let the bitterness slip out too fast. She left. She planned it. She used me. I know, she said, quiet. And I'm not calling to defend her. I'm calling because I think you need closure. And maybe she does too. I let that hang there. Part of me wanted to hang up. But another part, the part that had spent 5 years building a life with Dana, wanted to see the wreckage with my own eyes. One last time. We met the next morning at a little cafe near the park. Neutral territory. I spotted Joanna at a corner table, stirring her tea with anxious fingers. She stood when she saw me, like old habits still made her pretend we were close. Thanks for coming, she said, voice gentle. I won't waste your time. I nodded and sat. She's staying with me now, she began. Has been for a few weeks. Things didn't pan out the way she thought. You mean Lance dumped her, I said. She winced. Yes, that's part of it. But the bigger thing is, she's realizing that people aren't rallying around her like she expected. She's starting to understand what she did. She weaponized healing, I said, and funded an affair with my money. That's not a mistake, Joanna. That's a blueprint. I'm not here to argue, she said quickly. She asked me to speak to you. She wants to meet, one time. For closure, I laughed under my breath. Closure? She said she doesn't expect anything, Joanna said. She just wants to talk, to explain. I sipped my coffee, looked out the window. You want to know what I think? I said, turning back to her. I think she thought the door would always be open. She thought she could come back whenever the dream faded. Joanna didn't deny it. I'll meet her, I said finally. Not for her, for me. Joanna's eyes softened. Thank you. But let her know, I added, standing. This isn't a reunion. This is a funeral. I'm just here to bury what's left. I left without finishing my drink. There wasn't anything left to savor. She was already sitting when I got there, back corner table, same spot we used to share after weekend errands, long before the retreats and the whispering. No makeup this time. No accessories, no layered necklaces with quartz or chakras. Just a plain hoodie, hair tied up, eyes tired. She looked small, and not in a way that made me pity her, in a way that made me realize how much space she used to take up in my head. I sat down across from her, didn't offer a smile, didn't ask how she was, just waited. She cleared her throat. Thanks for coming. I nodded once. That was all she was getting to start. I know I said I wanted to explain, she said, but now that I'm sitting here, it all feels stupid, like I rehearsed something for a movie I don't even want to watch. Then don't perform, I said. That threw her. She looked down at her coffee, fingers tightening around the cup. Lance wasn't what I thought, she said finally. I think I needed him to be this enlightened mirror, you know? But he was just a guy who liked attention and knew how to say soft things in the right tone. I didn't respond. I miss you, she added, voice lower now. I miss the way you made the bed with the top sheet tucked tight. I miss the way you always knew when I was about to cry, even when I didn't. I miss feeling safe. I leaned back in my chair. You don't miss me, Dana. You miss support. You miss structure. You miss the version of me that held you up while you searched for reasons to leave. Her eyes flashed, hurt. Maybe anger. Maybe just recognition. I was never perfect, I said. I didn't write poetry. I didn't cry during group shares, but I was there, every day, steady, while you were off trying to find yourself in someone else's arms. She blinked quickly, jaw tightening. I thought if I grew enough, maybe I'd stop feeling trapped. You weren't trapped, I said. You were bored. And instead of talking to me about it, You decided the answer was to blow it all up and call it a journey. A long silence settled between us. She looked down at her hands. No ring, no tan line, nothing left of the life we almost built. I don't expect forgiveness, she said. Not now, maybe not ever. I just wanted to say it, out loud, that I was wrong. I nodded. You were. She swallowed hard. Is there any chance, someday? I held her gaze. No. Just that. No heat, no cruelty. Just finality. She nodded slowly. It took her a second, but I could see it land. The door she always assumed would stay cracked had closed, bolted. She stood, picked up her cup. No dramatic exit. Just a quiet woman walking away from a version of herself that had finally stopped getting forgiven. I didn't watch her leave. I looked out the window, into the street. For the first time since she walked out with a suitcase and a smirk, I didn't feel hollow. I felt done. The first time I sat across from Eloise, I didn't even know where to start. She asked, "What brings you in today?" I stared at the framed print behind her desk for a long second before answering. My fiancée moved out to go live with her emotional companion, I said flatly. She called it a temporary break, said I was too stable, too safe. Eloise didn't blink, just nodded gently, like people confess this sort of madness all the time. That was 3 months ago. By the 4th session, I wasn't talking about Dana anymore. Not really. I was talking about me, about how I spent years being the guy who stayed calm, stayed grounded, stayed quiet, how I thought being dependable meant being loved. She didn't betray you all at once, Eloise said once. She chipped away at you, and you made yourself smaller to stay useful. That hit harder than any punch I'd ever thrown. I started digging back, through years of subtle comments, sidelong glances, the way she'd make me feel like I was missing something every time I didn't react the way she wanted. It wasn't just what she said, it was what she withheld. Her approval always came with conditions. Be softer, be more open, be less of what you are and more of what I wish you were. And I'd done it. God help me, I'd tried. I remember driving home one night from her group's retreat center after picking her up early because she said she felt energetically suffocated. I brought her snacks, played her favorite playlist, stayed quiet when she stared out the window. I thought I was helping. I thought that was love. But she wasn't looking for love. She was looking for worship, for drama, for a partner who made her feel like the sun, even when she brought a thunderstorm inside. The more I spoke it aloud in Eloise's office, the clearer it got. She never saw me. She saw a shape she could mold into safety until she got bored. One night, after a session, I went home and wrote her a letter. I didn't plan to send it. I just needed the words out of me. I wrote everything. Every moment that stung, every quiet way she made me feel less than. I wrote about the morning she left with that smug grin and told me not to make this a whole thing. I wrote about the bank statements, about the knock on the door when she came back like nothing had happened. I poured it all out, page after page. Then I went to the backyard, lit a match, and burned it. It wasn't for her. It was never meant to be. It was for me. A declaration. Not of revenge, not even of grief. Closure. I stood there, watching the ashes scatter in the breeze, and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Unburdened. It was late spring when I saw her, Tessa, standing in front of the local honey stand at the farmer's market, trying to decide between clover and wildflower like it was a matter of national importance. She looked up, caught my eye, and smiled. "Gavin Ward," she said, like it was a surprise but not a shock. I hadn't seen her since high school. She used to sit behind me in biology, tapping her pencil against her textbook like a metronome. She was always quick with a joke, and always kept a book in her bag that had nothing to do with class. "Tessa Green," I said back, returning the smile. "Still putting too much thought into the little things? Still pretending like the little things don't matter?" That made me laugh, really laugh. We stood there for a few minutes, catching up. She'd moved back to town a few months ago to take care of her dad, worked remotely now, still read too much, still drank her coffee black. There wasn't a single ounce of pressure between us, just conversation, easy, free. Eventually, we said goodbye. No exchange numbers, no vague plans. Just a genuine quiet moment. I walked away smiling, and not in that way people do when they're pretending to be okay. It was real. Later that night, I came home to a quiet house. I didn't flip the TV on, didn't reach for my phone. I poured myself a drink, opened the window, and sat in the armchair that Dana used to call Gavin's throne. The wind pushed in, warm and gentle, smelling faintly like lilacs and freshly cut grass. For the first time, the silence didn't feel like absence. It felt like peace. There was no anxiety buzzing in my chest, no fear of what would happen next, no need to check if she'd texted, if she was lurking in the shadows of my inbox or memory. She wasn't. She'd tried to come back as someone broken, hoping I'd rebuild her. But I'd learned. I'd stopped mistaking devotion for duty, stopped confusing forgiveness with surrender. Tessa didn't change my life. That moment didn't fix me. It wasn't a movie ending, but it reminded me that I wasn't ruined, that my worth wasn't measured in who left or who came crawling back. Dana didn't destroy me. She revealed me, what I needed, what I deserved, what I would no longer tolerate. I took a slow sip of my drink, letting it warm my chest. Then I stood, turned off the porch light, and let the dark settle around me. Not heavy, not cold, just still. When I went to bed that night, I didn't check the door, because there was no one coming back, and I didn't need them to.